What's up guys, this is Kyle from Vapor Hut, driven by you, fueled by vapor, and today I'm going to be doing a review on this Crius tank from OBS. Let's first start with what I like about this tank. Now first off, this is an RTA tank, so you don't have pre-built coils for this thing. This tank is for you builders out there, or for those of you who want to get into building. Now with that said, the question is the deck easy to build on? And the answer is no. It's a little bit of a headache to put your coils in here, especially seeing as you can't do single coils. They don't make, like you did for the Goblin Mini, a little plunger on one side, so you can opt for a single build deck rather than having to do two. Now if OBS had done that, I'd actually be really excited about this thing. I could throw nickel builds in there. Doing a dual nickel build in a RTA can be really frustrating. I usually have to go with something like 28 gauge, and it's just too fragile. Now wicking this build deck is very interesting. I've never seen it before, where the cotton actually kind of fits down into little cavities, and then those cavities have the little circular window exposing it to the tank. So it does seem to perform really well. I have nichrome in here right now, 24 gauge. We're coming out to 0.21 ohms, and this thing's keeping up at 50 watts, which is a tad low. I could probably run this a little bit higher, but 50 watts is just perfect with this build. The flavor out of this tank is excellent. I really enjoy flavor out of this tank. Right now I got pink starburst in here, which is just as good as it's ever been. Now the second thing about this tank that I like and don't like, it can be kind of a nuisance, but remember with OBS's TVCT tank, the Top Fill Vapor Chasers tank? Well, on it, from the outside, you could spin it and adjust the liquid valve control on the atomizer itself. This Crius has that exact same feature. So that's kind of cool. I mean, if you do tend to go from higher PG or higher VG juices kind of back and forth, now on the fly, you can just go, wow, this thing's flooding, and close it off a little bit. Or, oh, I think I'm kind of getting dry hits, and open it up. But here's where it becomes kind of a nuisance for me. Every time you put this tank on, you will spin those liquid valve control holes open or closed. So just make sure if you're using this tank, once you put the tank on, check those windows. Make sure they're open, or wherever you like them to be. Now the third thing about this tank that's kind of interesting, but I do not like it, is the way you fill this thing. It's kind of like a Limo 2 or a Mellow 2 mixed with a Star Pro. Basically you lift up on the top and boom, a little side fill window is open. Here's the problem. Pushing that back down, it starts to pressurize the tank. And now, like the Star Pro, it might pre-prime your coils a little bit, but for the most part, I just had trouble getting it down. I lift this thing up, and not only does the pressure suck it back down, but once I do get it up and the pressure's kind of equalized, I can fill it up, but then pushing it down is a chore. I mean, you really have to keep pushing this thing until it gets flush. So it's a really interesting idea that OBS has with this top fill, where it kind of, hey, here's where you fill it, and then boom, it's gone, it disappears. But I think it's just not practical. I think it's too many moving parts. Now in case you were wondering, I've never had this tank flood just from opening and closing the fill hole. You'd think it would, since there's that pressurization going on. It's going negative, going positive, going negative, going positive. You would think that it would start to push juice through the window cavities and into the coil and out your airflow, but that's never happened. So in terms of airflow and juice control on this thing, it is awesome. But again, I'm not a huge fan of how you fill this thing. The external liquid valve control, super cool idea, but again, it kind of gets on my nerves. Every time I take this tank on or off something, I need to recheck those windows and make sure they're open. Now I do like the build deck. I wish they had had an option to go single coil mode, but for a dual coil RTA, this thing performs really well. And another kind of minor thing, I really like this acrylic drip tip they sent with it. The acrylic is just my cup of tea. When you're driving in the car and you hit a speed bump and this is in your mouth, metal is gonna chip your tooth a lot sooner than acrylic is. So that's my review of the Crius tank from OBS. If you guys need to see this thing up close and personal and how to build on the deck, just go ahead and click on the link to my tutorial. Otherwise, this has been Kyle from Vapor Hut, driven by you, fueled by vapor. Have a great day, guys.
Perfect.
Wow! Wow!